Hello, I'm Janna and welcome to the Crafty Corner. In case you're wondering about my new background, the Crafty Corner has moved, but I will have a full studio tour video and a process video showing all of the things that happened with this particular craft room renovation. But in the meantime, today is a Saturday showcase for the Funkie Junkie, and I am pleased to present a Saturday showcase for Tim Holtz Sizzix. Today I am going to be featuring Twig and Stump. Twig and Stump are such amazing characters, and we are going to be putting them in a few different settings. So we're also going to be making a variety of backgrounds. And this is going to show you how changing the background for one fantastic die set can change the entire feel of a card. So part one, we are going to be making our backgrounds. If you'd like to find out which materials I'm going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today for Saturday's showcase, we are going to be creating a variety of backgrounds, starting with this old die set, Arctic. Our friends Twig and Stump need some different card backgrounds to hide out on, so we're creating a variety of backgrounds to showcase them. So for this background, we are using some of the new deco paper. This stuff is gorgeous and oh so sparkly. And I'm using a piece of scrap cardstock as my base because we're going to be die cutting Arctic out of this cardstock base with the deco foil over the top. Now you technically could cut the deco foil on its own, but if you want a clean, crisp die cut, then it is much more stable to layer the deco foil over your cardstock. So we're just peeling off the background and smoothing it down, and oh, check out that sparkle. And then of course we're going to snip off the extra on the back. For snipping off that extra piece, I'm using the long version of the tonic scissors, and we've got a little bit of overhang on the other side. Not a big deal, that too can be trimmed after we die cut. So this die is in one large plate, and we're just going to place that directly over the top and run it through the vagabond. So now that it's been run through the vagabond, we are going to be poking out all of those little snowflake bits. And to do that, I'm using the Sizzix die pick tool. So we will just finish poking these out with the die pick, and then we will be able to attach our card base and have our first backdrop. So this is a nice easy backdrop. We just needed to stick the deco paper onto some cardstock, and then we're going to mount the cardstock on our card base. So let's go ahead and finish up with the die pick. Now some of these snowflakes are nice and big, and these are going to be fantastic for another project. Maybe I can even slip them in on one of the backgrounds that we are going to be creating today. So we're just going to set those aside and finish taking out our pieces. Oh my word, it is so sparkly and so pretty. I'm absolutely loving this deco paper. Ideology had some really fun things this time, and this also means that we get to have lots of fun with Sizzix pieces that can now become extra sparkly. Okay, so pretty easy, and I'll just keep saving some of those wonderful snowflakes. Okay, got a nice handful. I can set those aside. And let's get rid of all those little scrappy bits. Now we've got a little bit more to poke out on here, so continuing to use the die pick tool. And we'll just work quickly around the edge of this die cut piece. All right, so here we are. All the pieces have been weeded. We've now got a sparkly background, and we're going to be popping this up with some foam squares. I'm going to be sticking the foam squares all over here to give it a bit of lift so that we go from flat to fabulous with our card. And this will be our first background for our friends Twig and Stump. So let's go ahead, and we're going to add a few more of the squares on here and then attach it to our card base. All right, that is looking pretty good. Let's see. A couple more here and there. All right. So we're going to just quickly peel off these sticky tab backs and then pop that right onto the card base. So here we go. All those tabs are sticky. So let's go ahead and line that up with our base. For the base, I am using some of the Tim Holtz Distress Heavy cardstock. So we'll just line that up, place that down, and then I'm going to be trimming off the edges. And to do that, I'm going to be bringing in the large tonic scissors. So we'll just go ahead and clip that off. Now for this part of the card, I decided to give myself some extra space so that we could have a background on top of our background. So this piece I have cut at 5 inches by 3 3/4. And we're going to now add some ATG tape to the back. That way we can then stick this down to our next layer. Our next layer is going to be cut at 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. So we're going to have a nice 1/4 inch layer around the entire border. Now for that piece, I am bringing in some of the Tim Holtz Ideology Christmas worn wallpaper backdrop. And we're just going to take our card base and stick that right over the top. And we can see the beautiful stripes in the background. And the worn wallpaper gives us an added layer of texture. Okay, this completes our first card background. Let's go ahead and set this aside and start on our next background. Today, I believe we're going to be making a total of 4 different backgrounds. Now, on to some pine patterns. For this background, we're going to be using some of the Tim Holtz Ideology Craft Cardstock Metallic. Now, for the pine patterns, we're going to be creating a simple background. Now, these don't actually die cut. These do a light embossing, which is different, and it looks really cool. So with these, you don't want to load up the craft stock with lots of pieces. The distribution of weight when it goes through a die cutting machine is not going to be nearly as even if you do fewer pieces. So I'm going to start with 2 large pieces in each corner, just 2. And then I'm going to go back and do a few little pieces after. And check out the results. That looks fantastic. So next I'm going to go in with a few smaller pieces on the other sides, and I'm just going to roughly place the pine branches where I would like them. So let's see, we're going to do 1 here, 1 there, and I'd like to do a couple more on the other side. These are smaller pieces, so I think I can get away with running a few of these through the vagabond. But I do want to be careful because I want to make sure that there's even pressure all over these embossing pieces. I love the detail and how it shows up on the metallic craft stock. And we're going to have a little trick to make that come out even more after we've finished running this through. All right, and this part is done. We have run all of our pieces through. We've got some pretty cool embossing going on. And now I'm just going to quickly put these all back on the magnetic sheet so I don't lose any of these fantastic pieces. Okay, so setting that aside, now it's time to make that embossing pop. And to do that, I'm going to be pulling in some distress paint with the Tim Holtz Ranger brayer. For paint, we're using picket fence, and we're going to be lightly braying on the picket fence onto our background. I'm hoping this is going to give us a bit of a vintagey snow look. So dropping a little bit off to the side, dipping the brayer in, rolling it, and now let's see what happens. Okay, so we're going to try for a light hand and try to get this on, and hopefully it's going to catch the detail. Okay, not quite doing what I expected it to, but you know what? We can work with this. Let's see. I was hoping this would catch the embossed pieces and kind of resist it maybe a little bit. It kind of did on one side, but not the others. Not a problem, not a big deal. Let's go ahead and, oh, maybe if I try part of the eroded metallic technique. If I add a little bit of water, I should be able to get a bit of a droplet effect and brush some of that off with a paper towel. Definitely got a lot of paint on there right now, so maybe if I smudge it out a little bit first, then add water droplets, maybe I can get a really neat effect. So let's go ahead and drop some water droplets on there, and then I'll absorb the water and hopefully some of the paint with the paper towel. Okay, so there are our water droplets. We're now going to give this a quick dry with the Ranger heat tool to get the paint around the water droplets to dry just a little bit. And then we're going to see what happens when we lift. All right, taking the paper towel, placing it over the paper, and we're going to see what happens. Okay. So, oh, that came out pretty good. So now it looks like we got a bit of a snowstorm going on here, and I'm liking the splotches. That turned out really cool. Okay. Well, you never know what's going to happen with crafting. Sometimes what you think is a big mistake can turn into something pretty cool. So we're just going to quickly dry that off with the Ranger heat tool. Now, let's go ahead and give this a border. So I have got some older label tape, and I've been wanting to use this up for my stash, and this seems like a great time to do that. So we're going to be running this label tape all around the card to give us a nice border. And I'm going to try to snip everything pretty close so that we don't have any overhang. And we'll just peel that off and stick it down. Yeah, I'm really liking the black as a contrast to the white and silver. That just really makes the other part of the card pop. So that is going to work out quite nicely. Okay, let's make sure it's all lined up. That seems pretty good. Okay, turn the card and measure out some more label tape. And then we'll stick that side down too. So this is some of the older label tape. It says Merry Christmas, and it's just going to be in a repeating pattern all around the border. And I love that little break in it with the little snowflake or star. That's very cool. Okay, so another piece of tape and sticking it down. All right. And I'm just going to keep alternating this so that the text is facing in a way that can be easily read. Now, I also want to add a second mini border on this as well. And here is our completed background. I am loving the way this turned out. We've got a bit of a snow flurry going on with a double border. For our next background, we are going to be starting with a background piece. But this I'm going to be altering with a dash of Distress Mica Spray Stain. So let's go ahead and clear the deck. These pieces we will need later, but for right now, let's start with our basic background. Then we'll add some interest to it. So first, as always with Distress Mica Spray Stains, there is sediment at the bottom. We need to shake these up to make sure that the sediment is all mixed in, because that is where all the sparkly goodness is. So I'm going to give this a good shake. All right, that is good. And I'm going to quickly spritz the paper. And then we're going to add a little bit of the spray. There we go. And a little bit more of a mist. Very good. And then we're going to quickly dry this off. Okay, here's our basic background. I've altered this with just a dash of Distress Mica Spray Stain for a bit of wintry shimmer. And the color that we used was Snow Flurries. So next we're going to be adding some embellishment to this background. And to do that, I'm going to be pulling in the die set Funkie Nordic. This was a die set that was released last year, but it is so fun that I just wanted another chance to be able to play with it to create a fun background. Okay, so I've already die cut some pieces out, And these, we're going to be coloring them with some Distress Reinkers. So I'm just going to pull in my Distress Reinker palette, and we're going to be watercoloring some different colors onto these pieces. So I'm using a Tim Holtz water brush. This is one of the fine detailer ones by Ranger, and we're just going to go through and add some color. Now, this part we're definitely going to be putting on fast forward. Here are our finished pieces. So let's go ahead and set the ink palette aside, and now we're going to finish building our background. So to start with, I'm going to be using these longer pieces at the top, and for convenience I have added double-sided sticky tape to the backs of all of my pieces. So these just peel nice and easy like big stickers. So much easier than fighting with glue and glue ooze. So just carefully remove that, and then we'll start sticking our pieces down. Now, in addition to these fun pieces, I am also going to be adding in a border of washi tape. So when I place these down, I'm going to place them a little bit low. That way I won't run into issues with my washi tape border. And get this off. Oh, looks like this didn't quite cover all the way with the sticky tape, but not a big deal. We can easily move that around. Okay. So in this case, I do need to add just a touch of collage medium, but not a big deal, and any glue ooze in this case is going to be covered by the washi tape. So there we go, and we'll stick this down. Now I'll wait about snipping off the extra bit. I'm going to give the glue a moment to dry, but in the meantime we can keep building our scene. So next I want to put the barn in the background. There, that is good. And we'll get the second part of the barn. Oh, wait a moment, I need to get the mountains in first. Whoops. That's okay, not a terribly big deal. We can move some stuff around. All right, mountains first, then barn. Okay. Got it. Mountain and mountain. Good. And now the little snow-capped peak. Nice and easy to assemble. Just what I like when I am batching out holiday cards. Okay, next little snow-covered piece. Excellent. And now we go back and add the barn. The barn can go right here. Good. Oh, that's two pieces. Huh. Okay, the roof and the side. Good. And now I need the door, and then we add in the trees. Door goes here, and trees. Let's put a tree right here. That's good. And another tree over here, and then the two little ones. Perfect. I like it. We've got a nice little wintry scene. Okay, that can go there, and then we'll put another one on the other side. Ah, there we go. All right, for the last piece on this background, we are now going to be adding the washi tape. And for this is wider than what I really want to use. So what I'm going to do is cut that in half and then use the strips to go around my border. And I can also snip off this little extra piece of trim. Good. So I'm going to roughly measure about there. And then I'm just going to cut this in half. All right, nice and easy. Okay, let's go ahead and cut the long side as well. All right, that looks good. Going to tear that off here. And now to cut in half with the tonic scissors. All right, that seems to be pretty good. Snip there. Unroll this and snip again. And then we'll have one more little snip at the end. Excellent. Now this tape sometimes doesn't stick too well, and sometimes my fingers touch it too much and it loses its stickiness, so I'm going to be adding a bit of ATG tape around the border just to make sure that our tape is going to be sticking down well. Okay. Just going to run that around the border, and then we'll add the washi tape. Good. And one more side. Excellent. Oh, looks like I missed a little corner here. Good. All right, let's add our tape. So we'll start with a little side first, and it's totally okay that this overlaps. That's kind of the intention right now. All right. Put that right here, have that overlap there. I'm going to push that down and tuck the edges over. And after I've put all the washi tape on, I will trim the extra pieces off the back. All right, turning this way. Let's add one of the long sides. Good. And tuck the corners. Oh, a little too far. Good. And this side. Now just rotating this. Long side. Good. Washi tape down. Flip and over. All right, last side. Good. And flip and stick. And now, time to trim off the edges. Okay, so just taking the tonic scissors and trimming the edges here. And then we'll flip this over and see how everything came out. All right, and here is our next background. I like it. Okay, so let's set this aside and move on to background number 4. For our next background, we're going to be diving into some stamping, and we're going to be featuring the Tim Holtz Distress Pearlescent Distress Crayons. So I've got all of the sets in here, 1, 2, 3, 4 from Christmas and from Halloween, and we're going to use a few of these to decorate our scene. We're also going to be pulling in the moon mask, and we're going to be borrowing the trees from the Stamptember 2021 Tim Holtz stamper set. Okay, so let's go ahead and stamp out our image and get our moon mask in place. So first we're going to mask, and to do that I'm going to be using the littlest moon here. I'm going to take that, place that right here, and I'm going to be inking around the moon. And for inking, I'm going to be using one of the dome foams on a mini blending tool. So let's get some ink on here. For ink, I am using Uncharted Mariner. I'm going to place this here, and then we're just going to quickly add the ink. Now for my substrate, I am using some of the Tim Holtz specialty stamping paper. Since the trees from the Stamptember set are super detailed, I wanted to make sure that I had a surface that was going to get a nice clear stamped image. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Now let's maybe I'm going to dry this off a little bit first before I lift. The ink is still definitely a little wet, so I'm just going to quickly dry that with the heat tool so I don't smudge anything. Okay, good. And I'm going to go in using the die pick to carefully lift off the mask. Perfect. And again, I'm going to hit that with the heat tool just to make sure nothing is moving. Okay. That is good. I'm liking. Next, I want to give the background just a little bit of a splattery distress look. So I'm going to be going in with a few drops of water. So just very slowly squeezing with the mister, we're going to get some droplets. Okay, just like that, squeezing slowly. And we've got some lovely droplets showing up. And again, I'm going to quickly hit this with the heat tool. So, just getting this so that I can get those water droplets nice and dry. And then we'll move on to the next layer of the moon mask. Okay, let's go ahead and do our next layer. I'm going to put the moon mask back on and with its second part. And we're going to be going in with some more ink. Actually, no, I could smudge something in with Distress Crayon, and that would look pretty cool too. I think I would like to smudge with just a little bit of Snow Flurries. So let's see. Snow Flurries right here. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to put some of the Snow Flurries off to the side. And then I'm just going to go in with my finger and smudge that on. Okay. Ooh, that works pretty well. Yeah, Snow Flurries is definitely the color that I wanted to add. So, there. Smudge that in. A little bit more over here. And bonus of getting a little extra shine on here. Whoop, wiggled, not a big deal. There. Just a little bit more crayon here, and a little bit right there. Great. Okay, nice. So I'll go ahead and set the moon mask aside. That worked out really well. Now it is time to go in for some stamping. And for stamping, as always, I'm using some of the Tim Holtz Archival Black Soot. And we're going to be stamping with these fantastic trees. So I'm just going to line that up. Let's see. here would be good because I wanted to overlap the trees a bit. Good. And now I just need my stamping block, and I will be all set to stamp. So, got our stamping block. We're just going to pick up that stamp and add some ink. So, I'm just going to tap, tap, tap with the Distress Black Archival Soot, and then stamp our image. Okay, let's see. Yes, there is ink on here. If you tilt the stamp and you see a shine, that means there is ink. Alright, and I'm going to place that right here. I'm going to stamp. And lift. Good. And then we're going to stamp again. So, apply more ink. Good. And move the ink pad off to the side and stamp. So we'll place that right here. And that'll give us our tree line. Okay. Good firm pressure and lift. Excellent. We have got a nice, lovely winter scene taking shape. And now we're going to need to bring in some colors for our tree. And for the tree, let's see. Oh, there we go. These are the three I was thinking of, I think. Yep. There we go. We're going to be using a combination of Merry Mint, Tree Lot, and Shining Bauble. And to apply these, I'm going to be scribbling just a little bit of each color on the side of my craft mat, and then I'll be using a water brush to go in and apply the color. I think the predominant color here is probably going to be Tree Lot with little accents of the other two colors. So let's go ahead and start adding color. And for this part, we'll be putting this on fast forward. Now, to finish off our background, I want to add a little bit of a golden accent as a border. But before I start laying down tape, I need to first apply just a little bit of the ATG adhesive. Just want to make sure that our washi stays good and stuck after I've put it down. Okay, very good. And now let's add this wonderfully sparkly tape. There we go. And I'll tuck the edges in once I have this placed. Good. Okay, and I'll just go in with some scissors and trim that. And carefully tuck that over. Good. Okay, and we'll just work our way around the card. I really do like having a border on cards, whether it's a layered border or an added border. I just think it gives a little bit more of a finished look to a card. Right now, I am really digging the decorative tapes. Okay. Next. Where'd the end go? There it is. Okay, and then after this we only have one last piece to apply. Okay, so tucking those edges and turning. Oh. just tuck that under. All right, last piece. Now, where is the end? There it is. All right, perfect. Also, this is one that has been in my stash for a bit, so I am really happy to be using things up to make way for new things in the future. So that was perfect. Just finished that roll. Okay, and we'll tuck the edges under. Good. And this is our completed fourth background. Okay, and here are the 4 card bases that we've just completed. We've got our moon mask. We have Funkie Nordic. We've got our pine and Arctic. So, this concludes part 1 of our Sizzix Saturday showcase. I hope that you'll be joining me for part 2. And there's going to be a link down in the description box. So, in just a little bit, see you in part 2.